Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the JJSports podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Joey.
And Joey, we're going to get right into it. I apologize. I think that my light is coming down. Might be blocking, but either way, we're going to get right into it. Joey, straight to basketball. And guess what? For the first time all season, it only took them 3 games. I'm pretty sure that was less than last year. Knicks have won their first game of the season. And not only have they won their first game of the season, but they did it against the best team in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Gotta say, Josh, fantastic rounding by the Knicks. Good game by Payton, by Randall, by Alec Burks, newcomer, looking pretty good. And we did it all without Quickly and Obi, our rookie. So and we didn't just do it against like a subpar team. Not even a fringe playoff team like the Pacers or the Sixers. We beat the best team in the East. Not only did we beat them fully at health. Well, we had guys out, because I feel like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Giannis must not have been playing." But as you can see in this footage, in this screen, he's right there. He's playing, and he's playing pretty well, but not enough to win this game. And holy crap, we won. Let's not get over crazy, but this is a big game. I know it's one game, but this is a big game. Thoughts?
Yeah, they were saying just after the post game, Coach Tom Thibodeau said in his in his post game after this game against the Bucks, similar to the way he did against the Philadelphia 76ers game back on Saturday night. What happened was he said, we're only 0-2 on the season. It's only 2 games, only 2 losses. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. Who the heck knows where we could go? And obviously not like only that wording, but that being his thought and what was leading up to that point, saying still plenty of work to do, but there's still a chance, obviously. It's just 2 games in. It's 2 losses, but anyone can come back from 2-0, an 0-2 record under 500 when you have, what are they playing, like 72 games this season?
Yep.
It's very possible. Still 70 possible wins.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
And then he said the same thing, but in reverse psychology fashion after this game when he said, you know what, we got our first win, but it's only 1 win. There's still a lot of basketball left to be played. So going back on his work, but the whole idea isn't, we only had 2 losses or, it's only 1 win. It's that they have to work hard in order to play well. And no, they're working hard without 2 of their top players right now. Both are rookies, Quickly and Obi Toppin, as you mentioned, both in the top 30. That makes sense, obviously, if they're both first-round draft picks. And they were good throughout the first 2 games. I know Toppin didn't play in game 2 the entire game. Neither did Emmanuel Quickly. Both of them played in the first game of the season, but Quickly only played the first half. Toppin played the entire game. It wasn't super spectacular. So to play without those 2, maybe them being out was actually for the better. So we'll see where it goes going forward, but I'm looking forward tonight. They have a game against I don't remember who they play tonight. But
play the Cavs, I think.
Oh, right, the Cavaliers. And the Cavaliers are 3-0. And we know the games they had against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the preseason. Those 2 great wins. One of them was a comeback win, great fourth quarter by the Knicks, and the other one was the rest is history. They had it from the start. So I'm interested to see where this team is what this team is going to do going forward. I don't think that this is going to be the season everyone expected to see, that they're going to just completely tank the entire year. I think that they could do something interesting. I'm not saying they'll be a playoff team, but I don't think they'll be as bad as a lot of people are thinking they will be.
Yep, hoping for good things. All right, I think we're ready to move on to baseball. And 3 pretty interesting trades happened in the offseason so far this week. Hot stoves, nice and hot. 2 big ones you'll tell us about in a second, Josh, but let me just tell you about this one that really caught my attention. So a man that has had some good moments in his career, some bad moments. We're not sure what kind of player he is entirely, but if you get to harness that good part, you get a pretty special player. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Pittsburgh Pirates, Josh Bell, being traded. And who is he trades to? None other than the Washington Nationals. What do you think about this trade, Josh? Tell me what you think.
I like this trade. Obviously it's scary to think that everyone still in the NL East is getting better, including the Mets. But then again, that division is so incredibly hard already. And with all the acquisitions teams have made already this past offseason, Charlie Morton to the Braves, now Josh Bell to the Pirates. You saw the Phillies go out and what's it called? They Did they sign Brad Hand officially? I don't remember how long ago that was, or if they're still talking about it. I don't remember 100%. But I will say that
But Brad Hand has not been signed yet.
it hasn't been signed. There were lots of I remember lots of conversation about that. It's still going down. And with all that being said, I think that the Nationals are kind of sliding under the radar because they don't really have all the pieces that all these other teams are going after. You know, the Mets just got Steve Cohen as their owner. They're going to go out and try to sign Trevor Bauer or George Springer. They already brought in James McCann and Trevor May. And we know that a lot is going to happen. But the Nationals, I think, slide under the radar with this move because don't forget, Josh Bell was not so good in 2020. He wasn't good at all. Forget about so good. He wasn't good at all. But then again, a lot of the star players in the MLB weren't. Cody Bellinger didn't have a good year. Christian Yelich didn't have a good year. Francisco Lindor had an average year. All these guys who are supposedly the best at their position did not have good years. I don't think Josh Bell is really any exception. I think he fits that. That group of players as well. And on top of that, we know what he's capable of. In 2019, he had an unstoppable first half of the season. He was incredible. You know, he had 27 home runs, 84 RBIs, a 302 batting average. He was leading the league in hits, not just the National League. He was leading the entire MLB in hits. He was incredible. And then obviously the second half of the year was not as good, but he still finished with 37 home runs. You know, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And he was a rookie last year. Now, obviously, he's a little bit older for the rookie class. He was 27. He's now 28-year-old. And I think that he still has a lot to prove. I don't think he's the player we saw in the first half of the 2019 season, but I don't think he's the player we saw during the 2020 season either. I think he's somewhere in the middle, probably a little bit on the higher end, you know, of an upside player. And I think that he's probably the best option they have at first base. You know, he's nothing great defensively, but we know what he could bring with that bat. And if you platoon him with a guy like Ryan Zimmerman, who opted out he opted out in 2020. I don't know what his case is going to be in 2021, but good veteran leadership on his part. And even though, you know, not playing first base for his whole career, he was more of a third baseman for most of his career. We know what he could do. You know, he's pretty good still. He's an overall good player. And if they keep the universal DH around, then that would allow you, if you wanted to play Zimmerman in the field or Bell in the field, you could have the other one DH. Both are very capable of doing both options. I like this pickup by the Nationals. I think it's a very underrated pickup. I think that a lot of teams are kind of sleeping on the potential that this deal has. You know, it was a trade. The Nationals and the Pirates, they both like to sell low and, you know, for a low risk, high reward type of deal. And I think that's what they're getting on both sides here. So, yeah.
All right, you got a lot to say about this. Pretty exciting trade. All right, so that was the first trade, and then we had a monster one Sunday. So why don't you tell us about that?
Alrighty, so as most of you guys are aware, Joey, I don't know if you want to pull it up. I know that's that's more your role than mine. But again, similar to the Nationals and Pirates deal, they like to sell low and buy high, and you got that instead of on both sides in this trade. You got it on one side, and the other side received incredible benefits. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Blake Snell trade. It was Blake Snell for 4 prospects to the San Diego Padres. The Padres received former Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell. And in return, the Rays got back 4 prospects, and they were Luis Patino, Blake Hunt, Cole Wilcox, and Francisco Mejia. Now, I'm not going to break down each of these prospects specifically, but one thing we do know, and I think that's pretty clear, is for each side, and this is all I'm going to keep it to, is Blake Snell is a great pitcher. He's a very good pitcher. In my opinion, he's a top 10 pitcher in the league. I don't think there's much question about that. And he's been one of the most consistent pitchers in the MLB as well. Now, he won a Cy Young in 2018. He was ridiculously good. In 2019, I think he battled injuries, so he wasn't super, super great. In 2020, he had a bit of an issue going deep into games, but whenever he was out there, oh my God, the dude was filthy. No one could touch him. And we saw that. Obviously, the decision in Game 5 with Kevin Cash in the World Series was not a very good decision. I'm not going to, Blake Snell was excellent about handling that. He didn't demand a trade. He didn't go and, they didn't read it off of him, or at least I don't think it's not been indicated whether or not the organization read off, oh, Blake Snell is annoyed, like we don't want him around our organization. He's going to badmouth the way we manage the game. No, this was a good deal. And you could tell also because the Rays don't like to spend a lot of money. Now, Blake Snell, for a great pitcher, for the type of pitcher he is, the caliber of pitcher he is really not that expensive, or has not been getting a lot of money for a pitcher the caliber that he is. We think of Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, all those guys. They're getting hundreds of millions of dollars in their contracts, for the entire contract. Blake Snell was getting anywhere from, I think it was between 10 and 15. I think it was like with arbitration about $13 million a year. And he had 2 or 3 years left. That's not expensive at all, especially for a pitcher like Blake Snell. The Rays, we know, though, don't like to spend a lot of money. And again, they ship them off, as they've done with a lot of their players in the past who have been great at their most valuable time for prospects. And we know, is where I'm going to say one, like selling low and buying high on one end. I think the Padres made an excellent acquisition. They acquired one of the best pitchers in baseball, already to a very good rotation. They have Chris Paddock still young. Dinelson Lamet had an amazing rookie year. You have Mike Clevenger, who's going to be coming off of injury, not this year, but next year. But he's got a lot of upside. We know, we've seen what he can do with the Indians. Zach Davies had a good year. Now you add Blake Snell to this rotation, and even if he's not the number one, he's great to have anywhere in this rotation. It really doesn't matter. They now have 4 decent, legitimate starters that could go out and just own a week's worth of pitching. And then when you get Clevenger back, I'm not even going to get into that. We already know what it's like. Then you have what the prospects bring to the Rays. That was buying high for the Padres. Now it's selling low by the Rays and buying high by the Padres. Now you've got supposedly, I know it doesn't sound like it's buying high for the Rays, but they got a lot of upside in this trade as well, because we know what they do with prospects. If you look at the Rays, most of their pieces for their team last year, or even in past years, were not homegrown. The only homegrown piece they really have on this team is Kevin Kiermaier. No one else really. Randy Arozarena was brought in from a trade. Manuel Margot brought in from a trade. Tyler Glasnow brought in from a trade. Austin Meadows brought in from a trade. They don't really have many homegrown pieces that are the core of this team, or have been the core of this team for the last couple of years. So we know what they've done with their prospects that they've gotten in trades in the past, the same way they've acquired all those guys in Glasnow, Austin Meadows, Randy Arozarena, all those guys. It's not going to be any different, I think, with these four prospects that they're bringing in. I definitely think that there's a lot of upside, and I think the Rays are going to make the right moves in order to make the most out of this trade. Yeah,
and great points all around. It's a very big trade, and it's funny because we thought after this they were done.
Yep.
They were not. Not only did they trade for a great starting pitcher from one team, they got a great starting pitcher from another. They got Yu Darvish also. Holy crap. I thought that Atlanta did the coolest pitching signings, getting Morton and Smiley. This 100% trumps that, because now you got Blake Snell and Yu Darvish.
And now the Clevenger absence coming this coming year does not seem to be affected at all to this rotation. I mean, not at all.
If Clevenger comes back to what he is, this is the best rotation in baseball. This is exciting. It's exciting because
we've got to see where everyone else goes that are free agents.
It's exciting because now we can imagine, because we've always seen San Diego as Slam Diego, the hitters, but now they got pitchers now. They got real pitchers. This deal right now, I'm not saying guaranteed, but this might be the thing that puts them over the Dodgers, because I feel like their batting equaled up to the Dodgers kind of, they kind of could hold their own with the batting, but they never could hold their own in the pitching. I feel like the pitching is where they fell short. They didn't have enough nasty pitchers. Now they got 2 new, fresh baby legs right there on the mound, and I am so excited. And how'd they get him? They did what they did with Snell. They had some prospects. They said, here, take them. I don't know if it says here, but what I think is interesting is while they did give up a lot of prospects, they did not give up their top one, who's one of their also a really good pitcher. I'm gonna look forward to seeing come up this year, Mackenzie Gore. So I think that's pretty good. Oh, here it is. The prospects are getting back are shortstop Reginald Preciado, outfielder Owen Cassie, outfielder Ismael Mena, and shortstop Yasion Santana. So yeah, they got some prospects for Yu Darvish. And what do you think, Josh? This is pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, I think I don't know as much about what the Cubs organization, what the Cubs just in general, what they'll be able to do with these prospects, because we know this is how the Rays build their team and their organization every single year. We know what they can do But like with the Cubs, it's just a little too much for me to be able to predict that. But I will say that in terms of what the Padres get out of this deal, again, as I mentioned it before, now Mike Clevenger being out for the year doesn't hurt them so much because Yu Darvish again finished an incredible season. He finished top 3 in the Cy Young voting, and on top of all that, this is a guy with a lot of experience too. It's not just you're getting a guy who performs at a high level. It's not like the guy has no experience. He went to the World Series with the Dodgers back in 2017. He was back with the Rangers when they were a competitive team in the early years of the 2010 decade. And now you put him on this Cubs team who even last year, not 2020. 2020, they were a playoff team, but they got smoked by the Marlins in the first couple of games they played around. But in 2019, while they weren't a playoff team, they were a very good team. They were very well up there in contention for the playoffs. They just didn't end up making it in the end. They were short by, I think, 2 or 3 games. But Darvish had a very good second half of that year in 2019, and he had a very good overall year in 2020. There's a lot of upside to look forward to if you're a Padres fan, especially with all these pitchers. You brought in Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. Arguably, both of them were top 10 pitchers in the league this year. And we know what they're both capable of. They're both going to be amazing. And now you're looking at a rotation. I'm not going to go by specific numbers on which day these guys are going to start, but you're looking at Chris Paddock, Nelson Lamet, Mike Clevenger when he comes back, but not including Clevenger. Then you have Zach Davies, Yu Darvish, and Blake Snell. That right now is the best rotation on paper in the game. There's no question about it. Padres are going to be a very, very fun and dangerous team to watch this year.
And I hope it's real, man. I hope this isn't like fool's gold. Like, I hope it works out because it'd be so interesting to see LA get smoked, like, because no one's going to imagine that's going to happen until they see it. And this might be the only team right now, like in the NL that could do it right now. I believe in this team. This is a cool team. It's a pretty cool team.
I don't know. I think Atlanta's also pretty close to.
No, I know. And they getting Morton and Smiley definitely helped. But I feel like getting Snell and Darvish is a little better. You know?
No, it's definitely. But
granted, you had to give away players, and in Atlanta they just had to sign them. But still, like,
they're 2 young franchises.
It'll be interesting to see who plays LA in the NLCS.
Yeah, it's looked past a lot. The Padres we know with Tatis and Cronenworth now. Trent Grisham had a very, very good year. Will Myers has kind of revived his career in San Diego the last year or 2. Eric Hosmer's starting to hit again. You got Manny Machado still, like Tommy Pham. Like they're so fun to watch. And then in Atlanta, they're not really looked at as one of the young teams because you have Freddie Freeman still, and last year they had Donaldson, this year they had Ozuna, which weren't exactly the youngest players. But you got Ronald Acuna, who's arguably a top 5 talent in the league. They've got Oswald Albies, they've got Dansby Swanson. D'Arnaud had an incredible year. He's finally become the player everyone thought he could once be, but it took him a little bit of time to put it together in the pitching staff with Max Fried. I don't know why they let go of Mike Mavich, everything. Yeah, Mike Soroka.
Ian Anderson.
A little shaky coming off a torn ACL, but or maybe torn Achilles. It was one of the 2. Yeah, Ian Anderson, as you mentioned. And now I drew Smiley and Charlie Morton to that rotation. A little bit of depth and a little bit of experience and veteran leadership. Still a young team, and they're going to go far, I think. It pains me to say that as a Mets fan, but
we'll see. We'll see who goes far. But either way, very exciting baseball. Very exciting.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've talked enough baseball. I think we're ready to go to football. And we're not doing matchups. We're not doing pick'ems. We're talking about the most polarizing division in the National Football League. It is by far the most polarizing. It is the NFC East. Okay? Because that, my friend, it could be anything. Anyone can win this division, except the Eagles, kind of. But it's just like it's exciting. What?
Not kind of. They're officially eliminated.
Okay, Eagles are out. But we got 3 teams, otherwise, that can all make it week 17. While you don't see it, 3 teams are competing for a playoff spot. That's really rare in week 17. So I'm excited, man. And should we go over each one?
Yeah, I think we should. Just to state the obvious, though, the Eagles are out. They would have still had a chance to win the division had they knocked off the Cowboys, and they were looking like they were going to pull it off. But then the injury to Fletcher Cox then the momentum just completely flipped in the opposite direction, and it was against them completely for the rest of the game. So props to the Cowboys for really reviving their season. I think they were like 2-9 just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Or
I think you got to give.
no, they're 3-1 in their last 4 games. So props to them.
Yeah, you got to give credit to
win the division.
Andy Dalton. Very good backup.
Was awful in his first few games as a starter with Prescott being out at first.
Yeah, but like he won the game.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying good for him. He's.
Granted, he does have 3 of the best weapons I've ever seen not even counting Zeke, but like Cooper, Gallup, who's not bad, and CeeDee Lamb, who's one of those 3 rookie wide receivers this year that
incredible
are just
season for
tearing up. You remember that you recall that last play he had?
Yep.
In this game? Holy crap, he ran so much that play. Him, Ruggs, Judy,
they're all great. All going to be playing a long time too.
Without barring an injury, yes, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go over the 3 teams, the 3 contestants for the NFC East. So first one is Dallas, and they can win one of 2 ways. They can win that if they win against New York next week and Washington loses or ties, or if they tie and Washington loses. So that's a little tricky, with the ties and anything. But basically, Dallas wins, Washington loses, they're in. With Washington, it's really simple.
Winning, they're in.
Winning in. Then again, they could tie and Dallas could lose or tie. But yeah, winning in. Right? Giants only have one way in. They have to win against the Cowboys, and the Deadskins have to lose. And I'm not going to lie, it's not looking good, but I don't know if you agree with me, Josh, but I actually think the Giants have a shot. And I'm going to tell you why. There's 2 parts to them winning. Number 1, they have to win their own game. Now, I'll get back to that part. But number 2, Washington has to lose. And granted, I know Philly hasn't been great lately, but I would still pick Jalen Hurts over Washington because Smith is not – if he's not playing, I don't trust anybody. And they actually just – I don't know if you saw – they released Haskins yesterday.
Yeah. So
I don't even know who the hell is going to be the quarterback, but I really doubt whoever it is because Allen's out, So, yeah, I doubt whoever –
rush Smith back. Who knows?
So if Smith's in, they have a shot, obviously. But if he's out, I don't think they're going to beat him. I don't think so. I don't think there's a chance. I really don't. The hardest question is, can these Giants beat the Cowboys? We had a shot when we played them earlier in the season. We got a little screwed by the refs on a kind of annoying call, on a trick play. And later on in the game, Dalton played well. So it's tough. I think we have a shot. I'm not going to be surprised if we win. I'm not going to be surprised if we lose because that's just how this division is. I can't really definitively say. It's kind of hard to say at this point. But what do you think, Josh? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so I know that in the last episode when we did our predictions for who was going to win each division, I said that I think the favorite has to be Washington in this division. I'm still rooting for the Giants. They still had a shot. I'm a Giants fan. I'm pulling hard for them to win. But I did say I thought Washington had the best shot. That was before Alex Smith got hurt. Dwayne Haskins has been absolutely
terrible,
atrocious. Not just slightly bad, not even just terrible enough that even the defense alone could win them a game, because he could not do a single thing. They cut him for a reason, and it wasn't just because he was doing some stupid things off the field, which he kind of was also, but that's beside the point. He's awful. There was no way they were going to win another game with him at QB. They did it the first week, and in the first week we know you can never tell. You can't really tell anything except for really just the past year's champion coming out and destroying in their game as they're always projected to. With Washington, somehow they beat the Eagles, but like again,
wasn't even him, right? Wasn't that
it was
Allen?
Haskins. It was Haskins. But like anything's possible in week
I
one.
thought it was Allen.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Haskins. But either way, okay, so if it wasn't Haskins, then he didn't win a game the entire season. And I don't know how many starts he had, but it was probably the most on the team.
I'm gonna look that up.
Smith played in more games than he actually started. He was brought in as a backup at certain times. So with all that being said, I don't think Washington's going to win this week. And even though the Eagles lost, and they were kind of shut down in the second half.
Oh,
Jalen
right.
Hurts.
You're right. He did play. Wow.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts has really been impressive. Like just
he beat the Saints. He beat the Saints. That was crazy.
He's been impressive. He's been very impressive. I think that it was a match made in heaven. I don't think the Eagles will be hanging on to Carson Wentz, quite honestly. I think they're going to look to trade him away. I know with the contract and everything, it's going to be a little difficult, but they don't have to play him. They could still play Hurts over him. It's just, if they could get value for him, they get value for Wentz, then why not? So anyway,
you know what?
I like the Eagles.
A good point, Josh. Like, what are they fighting for? Like, why would they? Like, maybe they would play Wentz because what do they have to lose? Like, why get Hurts in a meaningless game?
So that
actually is a worrying thing because I think if Wentz is in, they actually could lose.
So
Washington is because I don't think Wentz is that much better.
You make a good point. But I will say one thing, and Washington, we'll come back to that real quick. As for why I think the Giants are going to win this game, and I'm saying it, I'm not even getting into like, oh, this could happen. I think the Giants are going to win this game, and I'll tell you why. Because
really? Okay.
I think straight up, it's not going to be – I won't be surprised if they win, and I won't be surprised if they lose. I'll be very surprised if they lose. It's at MetLife Stadium, and I know they're not allowing fans, but Dallas is allowing fans. And Dallas away from their fans is still going to be a little bit, they're going to be a little bit shaky, if you ask me. I know that 7 other times.
That game in Atlanta, was that in Dallas or Atlanta? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I'm not going to get into all that. What I will say is also, though, that as we mentioned, Andy Dalton, and he's been great the last couple of weeks. But the Giants proved in Week 5, even though they lost that game, that they could stick with the Cowboys' offense, with their own offense, and even make some defensive efforts and plays when Prescott is in. And Prescott is by far the better quarterback offensively for that team. They were very good offensively with Prescott in. Defense was their main issue. Now their defense has stepped up to play a little bit better, and Andy Dalton's been Mr. Consistent, which has been very helpful. It's why they're only a win and a Washington football team's loss away from winning this NFC East. But I don't think they're going to beat the Giants. I think the Giants want revenge because of the way that game ended, whether it was, just their collapse on defense those last couple plays and penalties combined. And also, I know Joe Judge said that his goal was not necessarily to coach for the postseason, but I think his mindset has completely changed, and he knows how realistic the chance is, even though it might not be as strong as the Washington football's team chance. And I think they're actually even with the Cowboys because that game is 50-50. Whoever wins needs the same result out of Washington, at least most. Yeah,
both teams need Washington to lose.
They basically need – because I don't think Washington – the likeliness of a tie is a lot less than Washington.
Yeah, it only happened between the Eagles this year and the Bengals, like as far as I remember. That was really weird. That was only tie,
So I will say that I think Washington is I think the Giants are definitely going to win this game.
All right.
I'll root them on hard, and we'll see if they can get it done. I think their key is that if their defense could play well. I think that even though the offense has been a little bit weak, obviously against the Ravens it didn't show up until the last quarter, and against the Browns it really just wasn't found all night in terms of scoring. At least they were able to move the ball, but I think that the key is the defense in this game because of how good Dallas's offense has been playing recently. The defense is not great.
I'm looking at the game, and it says we only lost by like a field goal. So
it was the last second field goal by Greg Zuerlein. And I'll tell you, I think the Giants are going to win this game, and I think that they will be the ones to win this division. As for why Washington also, I know I said I would get back to that, is for one of two reasons. One, I don't think they're going to win with anyone but Alex Smith.
Right.
Even Smith wouldn't give them the best. Like, he gives them the best chance, but I don't think that they have such a high chance still because of the second thing, which is that the Eagles really don't want to see the Cowboys winning this division. I know the Giants aren't much better. They're both very heated rivalries. The Giants and the Eagles, and both the Eagles and the Cowboys are both very, very big rivalries. But I think that
Wait.
the Eagles would have a little more respect for the Giants to win, so to speak, because the Cowboys were the ones who completely ruined it for them. The Cowboys were the ones who officially eliminated them from the playoffs. You know,
Are you saying? Yeah, but that doesn't sound like
I'm not saying I think they're gonna tank or they're gonna win.
they're gonna tank, because if they tank, that means Washington's in and both the other teams are out.
Right, exactly. So,
Because even if they beat them, they'd still have to rely on the Giants to beat the Cowboys.
but
So
I'm saying they want to give them the best possible chance. I'm not saying that's a thing. Like, that would be my thought
I would be
process.
so mad if that happened. That's like,
I don't think that's going to happen. And like you said, like, they don't have anything to lose except like a spot in their draft. That's really just all they have to lose. And one win isn't going to mean that much because there are going to be a lot of teams that are around.
they're gonna have an amazing draft pick.
The Eagles at least are, what's it called? The Eagles at most can win 5 games. And the Giants are around them. Obviously, if the Cowboys win, they won't be close. If what's it called? If the football team loses, they'll still be behind the Eagles in the draft. The only teams you really have to worry about are the teams in the opposite conference. The Chargers, the Broncos. The Bengals weren't great. The Jaguars have officially locked up the number 1 pick. Even the Jets can't catch them now, though, with winning 3 straight. And I'll just say, though, that I don't think that they want to lose. Even you're saying, what do they have to lose? I don't think they want to go, into the next season, or that's a little far down the road. But to say that, I don't think that they want to end the season on a low note, that they lost a game. I think they want to end on a high note, knowing that they have promise. They're 2-1, 3-1 in their last couple games, something like that. And Jalen Hurts has been great. I don't think that they would have any reason not to start him, even the possibility of getting injured. I think that they want Hurts and they want to see what he could do. And he's only getting better.
Okay, I think we've covered everything for this division, and I think we're in agreement that we want the Giants to win. We think they'll win. We hope they win.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're ready to move on, Josh. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so NHL. We talked about how in the NHL, all the big signings, most of them happened, a while ago. But we knew there were going to be a few still happening, in the offseason. So I have a few here. I'm going to do some of them really quickly, and I'm going to do the ones that are more interesting. We're going to talk about more in depth. All right, so quick honorable mention to okay, so I don't know why, but Josh, we were in, school. 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs. You would not shut up about this guy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think I remember, but I want to hear who it is.
Okay, so it's is this, did I say playoffs or what did I say? Did I say playoffs? Stanley Cup playoffs?
I believe so.
Okay, I meant finals. You wouldn't shut up about this guy. So his name is Connor Sheary, and he jumped ship. He went to Washington. Yep. He left.
That's the second Penguins player the Capitals have signed.
Him and
player from
Schultz.
last season, Schultz, and now Sheary.
What do you think, Josh? I know you want to talk about this a little bit. What do you think?
I do, and I think that the Capitals. I feel if you're going to compare him to anyone on the Capitals, I feel like they already have a player like Connor Sheary, and it's a guy by the name of Jacob Vrana, number 13.
Yep.
He's a very fast forward with a very, very, very impressive snapshot and wrist shot. He's not known for having, like incredible slap shot or like ridiculous accuracy where he can fit it into corners and fast spots. But man, you have 2 very, very scrappy yet skilled players at the same time. Both of them can fly down the ice. They're both very, very fast, and they're effective. I mean, Sheary's won 2 Stanley Cups. Vrana won a Stanley Cup just a couple of years ago, as, like most of these players. They were back-to-back champions, these guys, both of them. Penguins in 16-17 and then Capitals in 17-18. And I think that's still pretty recent. I know that there have been And there have been 2 champions since, the St. Louis Blues and now the Tampa Bay Lightning. But these guys, these guys know what they're getting in Connor Sheary as being probably, the 2 biggest rivals. Or I don't want to say the 2
They
biggest
played
rivals.
each other 3
They're
straight.
each other's biggest rival, yeah. And I think Sheary coming over is just the icing on the cake because now you have a second forward. And I know that they like to play Verano with Oshie and Backstrom or Kuznetsov and Oshie. They kind of like to alternate between Backstrom and Kuznetsov to see who plays on the top line with Ovechkin. And I think last year it was Kovalchuk, but they kind of determined not to play him just yet. Anyway.
And now this shakes up where Tom Wilson is, in the.
Yeah, that too. So I'll say that, just adds more depth. And even though the Capitals, I think, are a bit declining right now because they lost a big piece in Braden Holtby, and Samsonov is good, but he's unproven. And in what he did last year, he was good, but he wasn't exactly the caliber I think everyone's expecting him to be or was talking about that he could be. It didn't seem like that to me. And obviously, if the goal was to play Henrik Lundqvist, unfortunately, we wish him a recovery with his going forward with open
heart surgery.
Yeah. So anyway, also lost the Capitals, and now Samsonov is going to be the full-time starter. And look, he's got promise. I just think that he hasn't established himself. So I think the Capitals are going to be lacking a little bit on the defensive aspect, and they brought in Justin Schultz earlier in the season, which is going to help. They didn't know Lundqvist wasn't going to play that early. At least I don't think they did because they signed them both around the same time. But Sheary's definitely a plus to that team, and I like him in Washington. I know it's going to make it hard for the Rangers to deal with. I'm a Rangers fan, as we all know, so are you.
Yep.
And, it doesn't make the Capitals much worse. Not worse at all. But I'm interested to see because you now have basically 2 of the same player on this team that came over from another team in Vrana and now Connor Sheary. I like this move by the Capitals. And
we'll see where it goes.
They took a pretty deep team and just made it even deeper offensively. Think about that. So yeah,
we'll
I
see
like
where it goes. All right, that's the first one. This one, this is one of I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NHL. His name is Eric Holla.
Yes,
and he just signed with the Nashville Predators.
And we mentioned him in our free agents clip a couple episodes.
Yeah, we said remaining free agents,
Yep.
And there were other ones, and we'll get to them. But this was one of the first ones that stuck out to me because this is a big pickup for teams that want a good depth center,
I think I might have predicted he ended up in Nashville. I could have been wrong, but
we'll have to look at the tape. But
yeah,
but I think it's a perfect spot.
Yeah,
because now you have Johansson, Duchesne, and now you have Hall,
who could play a higher position, by the way,
on the wing. It's true, but
also he could be a higher ranked center on most teams. I think it's very good depth for the
very valuable piece. And we saw what this guy could do on Vegas, man. He was very exciting, and he bounced around the league. Hopefully he gets to stay, where he wants. It's a 1-year deal, so maybe he'll leave again. I don't know. I just hope he's happy where he is because he's a fantastic player. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love watching him play. And yeah, I think that's all I've said about that because we got other ones to talk about. So
there's not really much more to mention. He's kind of like a Connor Sheary, Jacob Vrana type player, as we mentioned. He's a guy who flies down the ice, but he's got a little more upside. He could play the center position. He could play the wing position. He's been on some very competitive teams. We mentioned Vegas Golden Knights back in 2017-18, their inaugural season where they went to the finals, even though they lost, still deep run, lots of experience. Back with the Wild when they were a good team and were constantly making the playoffs every year while they weren't making it as far as he made it the 1 year in Vegas. Still, a lot of experience there. He was with the Panthers this past year. They were a good team. They obviously did not meet their expectations with the signing they had of Sergei Bobrovsky and the breakout season of Jonathan Huberdeau, who finally took that next step, as well as Alexander Barkov and Dadonov, who had great seasons too. And the year before it was with Carolina, and they went on a deep run to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I like this move. The Predators,
very valuable piece.
Yeah, the Predators, we know ever since making the Stanley Cup Finals back in the 2017 playoffs, they haven't really done much. They won a President's Trophy the next year, but they kind of just it fell flat against Winnipeg
Yeah,
in
they
most
lost
of the games they played.
Subban and
And
Rinne
I think
started to decline and
and ever since they really just haven't been so strong. So I think that bringing in a guy like Howland maybe gives them a push to get over, and we'll see where they can go this year, especially with the new division realignment and everything.
all right. We got three more and then we're done. So I'm gonna just change it up a little bit. We're gonna go back to signings in a second, but I want to talk about a trade because this one, you I don't know if you heard about it. This one hits close to home. Derek Stepan got traded from
Yep.
Arizona to Ottawa for a second-round pick. What do you think of this move, Josh?
See, for the Coyotes, they had a lot to look forward to last year, and we know with how they were penalized for holding, illegal within the league draft combine workout sessions and prospect, and prospect ratings and everything. So obviously, I think they lost a draft pick or something like that there. They lost a couple draft picks there. They weren't able to re-sign Taylor Hall. Now it's not necessarily losing Stepan, like they don't have him, but they at least got something back in return for him, a second-round pick. As for, so it doesn't seem to be looking too great for Arizona, especially after great goaltending years from Darcy Kemper and Ante Ranta. They really made a nice tandem this past year. And obviously the young, talented Connor Garland, Christian Fisher, Clayton Keller still, Christian Dvorak, who's still pretty young. They all stepped
They
up.
had good veterans in Hall, Kessel, Grabner, Stepan,
Yeah. And Goligoski and Demers on the back end, Ekman Larson obviously still. But it doesn't look promising for them. As for the Senators, this is a very interesting, and I think you should be excited if you're a Senator because you know what Derek Stepan has to offer. He was back with the Rangers, obviously, earlier in the 2010s decade when they had those crazy runs, when they went to the conference finals 3 out of 4 years, first against the Devils. The next year they lost to the Bruins, but that wasn't in the first. They still made it past the first round, then to the Stanley Cup finals, then to the Eastern Conference finals. Then they still made the playoffs. They lost in the first round. Then they went to the semi-conference finals against the Senators. So he's a guy with a lot of experience. And with the Coyotes, they were only really, really bad for 1 year. That was the first year of 2017-18. Last year, they were a very good team. They just missed out on the playoffs, but they were keeping up. Don't forget, like with the Blackhawks, who were good, and the Avalanche, who caught fire at the end of the regular season. And then this past year, they ended up making the playoffs. They knocked off the Predators in the play-in round, and even though they didn't beat the Avalanche, that was a very, very difficult task for them to pull off, and they were looking at an uphill battle. They fought, and they kept it competitive. They lost in 5 games, but, they only really got blown out in 1 game, and they fought really hard. So Stepan was a part of that, and now he brings more experience to a team in Ottawa, which was absolutely terrible last year and a couple of years before that.
Now they're looking pretty good,
Now it's looking great for them. You acquired Evgeny Dadonov. You signed Matt Murray. Now you bring in Derek Stepan. Like, things are looking pretty good for Ottawa. They also had the two of the top 5 draft picks in Tim Stützle and Jake Sanderson.
Yeah, looking pretty good.
They could be up and running in a year or two. They really could be.
They're looking pretty good, pretty good. I mean, now Stepan could be like the Haller type. He could be the third center after Tkachuk and Tierney, So it could be very valuable in a year or two if they can make a playoff push. Yep. Very valuable player. With that experience he had, everyone knows Stepan. So, yeah, that's great. All right. Second to last one. So, hold on a sec. So, this is, again, you mentioned earlier, we talked a video about remaining free agents. Here's another one of them. Anthony Duclair signed a 1-year deal with the Florida Panthers. Is this a good deal? Tell me about it, Josh.
Yeah, so I think it kind of helps for missing Evgeny Dadonov. And, they still, when they extended Mackenzie Weegar. And obviously, I don't think they're going to have Mike Hoffman. He's still not on a team yet, but whether or not they sign him, it's probably not likely that happens. They brought in Patrick Hornquist via trade this year.
It's true.
I like this move. Duclair is he's been better his last couple seasons. Ever since he left the Rangers, the team he got drafted by, he had like 1 good game there, and then after that he left. He was with the Coyotes for a little bit of time.
Chicago,
and Chicago, yeah, and Columbus.
But then when he got to Ottawa,
Yeah, he's been on another level ever since then. So I like the move by the Panthers. Good depth signing because they have a lot of talent. You've got Barkov, you've got Huberdeau. On the back end, you've got Aaron Ekblad and Keith Yandel and Strawman, who was good last year. He could still be going forward. And the biggest piece in that, obviously, who was an off-season acquisition from last year's off-season, Sergei Bobrovsky. So I think that, the Panthers could do some damage. Obviously, we also mentioned they brought in Patrick Hornquist. It's just when can they put it together? Because on paper, this team could be competing for a division title, but they just
we're hoping they change it around because they weren't a bad team last year, and now they're looking a little bit some of the same, different, but like they still got talent,
Mm-hmm.
And they've done a great job of trying to replace because you can't afford, you're not going to pay for Hoffman and that enough. So now you get Duclair, who was great, and you trade for Hornquist, who's proven that he can add a scoring touch to this team, and you already get the mainstays that have been great the whole time. Like your Barkov, your Ekblad, your Strawman, and now your Huberdeau. So it's pretty exciting. And if Bob rebounds, Bobrovsky, like to his form in 2019, that's a scary team in the playoffs. Scary. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the last one. I don't know if we mentioned him in that aforementioned video about remaining free agents. We probably did. Or maybe we didn't as much because we were sure he was going to go back to the team that he was just with the Stanley Cup with. But he did not. Who am I talking about? I am talking about Corey Perry signing a one-year deal with the Montreal Canadiens. The freaking Habs. Right, Fried is freaking out right now. He is freaking out. Holy crap. Tell me how big of a deal this signing is, Josh, because I think it is. Tell me about this deal.
Like we've said the last couple episodes when we've done our rankings of who we think could emerge very, very to be a very, very good team this coming season, and we talked about the Rangers and the Colorado Avalanche most notably, but the team that we also mentioned, which we didn't talk about as much, was the Montreal Canadiens when they brought in Tyler Toffoli. You got Jake Allen now, Josh
Anderson. You got Paul Byron.
Paul Byron still. They are looking good, and with this signing of Corey Perry, they are even better. He is such an underrated player in the league these days, and this, he went from being a superstar to being.
He was an MVP in this league. He won the Hart.
Yeah, he was. He went from being a superstar about 3 or 4 years ago to now just being like an depth player. Just a depth player. But look.
Yeah, but even as a depth player, he is still something. He's still
great. Off last year for Dallas. He scored some big goals in the playoffs, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals to keep their season alive.
Huge part of their run. Huge. He was what they needed. Him and Joe Pavelski helped them so much in the playoffs just because of the experience alone.
And now you bring him in to a young Montreal team with Nick Suzuki, Sperry Kotkaniemi, Philip Deneau still young, Philip Deneau still young. I know they don't have Max Domi anymore, but Joel Armia is still pretty young. He's been doing well for them. Tomas Tatar is still a very, very good piece to have around. You've also got on the back end, you have Mete, you've got Ben Sherratt, you've got Shea Weber, who's still leading the pack and still not even so old yet. You also have there's one more piece that I'm missing. I can't. Gallagher also. Brendan Gallagher, don't forget about, and he's not going to be playing right off the bat, if at all, this season, but. We know what this team is capable of, and then you add the depth in Tyler Toffoli, who's more than just depth, but it just adds depth to the wing there. Josh Anderson, now Corey Perry, who's accomplished and not as skilled a player he used to be, but man, oh man, this experience that he brings to the team is gonna add so much to this team, which just made the qualifying round and advanced to the first round. Against the team they were projected to get blown out by. They were supposed to get blown out by the Pittsburgh Penguins. A lot of teams were not teams, excuse me. A lot of fans and a lot of people around in the States and Canada were thinking there was no way this team. They got swept by the Red Wings on the season. Yeah, the two crying out loud. They thought they were going to get smoked by the Penguins. Not only did they win it, but they didn't even take them the whole series to do it. They beat them in 4 games in a best of 5 series. So
That was
props to
the
them.
biggest upset of the playoffs. Like that in the
I don't
Blackhawks.
know if that was the biggest upset of the playoffs.
The round in that round. I mean.
In that round, yeah, it probably was. But I will say, well, really, I mean, the Canucks beat the Blues. So, but either way, we're not going to get
No,
into
but the Canucks made a push for Toffoli, right? Who we were talking about, and all these
Right,
other
that's
guys.
true. Okay, well, I don't think
That crazy.
he didn't play the whole round. But either way,
Yeah.
very good pickup for Montreal, and I think that Perry is going to add a lot to this team. And also we mentioned like with Jake Allen, I know not on the offensive aspect or really the defenseman's defensive aspect, but he's going to be a good backup for Carey Price. He's also shown that he could play at an elite level still. So Canadians are going to be a team to look out for this year. I know that Colorado's been established as a true juggernaut really right now. So is Vegas. And I think that the next two to join the pack are the Rangers, who, in my opinion, still have another year to go before they could really be considered because they put most of it together last year. But now you add in Jack Johnson to that defensive rotation, and you take away Henrik Lundqvist, who was, the majority. I think he started majority of the games for them last year. Still, Georgiev proved himself a lot more last year. Shesterkin was good, very good last year.
Freaking was amazing. He had 10
Again, small
record.
sample size, so we don't know how it'll turn out for a whole season. Now, thankfully for them, again, it's not a full season; it's only 56
And
games.
now you have Lafreniere.
And now you had Lafreniere. So again, similar to the way the Canadians are going to have to do it this year, I think that they haven't 100% put it together. On paper they did, similar to the way the Rangers did last year when they brought in Panarin, Trouba, and Fox. But now, this is the year for both of those teams where you have to establish yourselves. And if they can, with the acquisitions they made this past off season, the season starts in another week and a half to 2 weeks. If they can establish themselves this season, then that's when, in my opinion, they'll join the pack of the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. So that's what I think of all this. So I won't exactly be expecting Montreal to be a true juggernaut this year, even with the move now of Corey Perry, it's just the icing on the cake, really, with what they did already. But look out for them in the future, to say the least. I just want to throw one last thing out there. I know that we didn't mention it, Joe, but I don't know if you're aware that also we're not going to get too far into it. It's kind of just like what happened earlier. But the Lightning signed a contract. They signed Anthony Cirelli to a 3-year deal. I don't remember the value and everything, but just bringing back another piece, it's nothing really that, insane. Like we've seen all these other players.
Yeah, but we had a feeling they were going to do that.
Right. Yeah, that was, but just, just another update. It happened.
That's true. It says 3 years, $14.4 million.
Yeah. So for a guy, they had a similar price with Sergachev. I think Sergachev is making around like around 10 million, maybe a little bit more, 10 to 11, maybe 12, something like that.
Wait, which player?
Sergachev, Mikhail Sergachev.
I'll tell you in a second. Cap friendly. Okay, it says here that Sergachev is making, like this year, or you want the whole?
No, total, his whole contract. 3 years and how much, or 4 years?
3 years for like 12 point something. I'm not
Yeah.
the best at math. It's 4.8 a year.
For 3 years.
Yeah. So whatever that is.
Yeah. So
12.
Both similar deals. Cirelli has a little more upside, I think, and especially with they're not going to have Stamkos this year, or at least for most of the year. They're not going to have Kucherov this year now. He's going to go out with surgery. So bringing back Cirelli was definitely something that helped them, but it's not as crazy. It's not going to make as much of an impact on the teams as, say, bringing in, because we know the Lightning are stacked with talent already, both offensively, defensively, and in their goaltending. We know, though, that, like teams like the Predators and the Canadians and the Senators even, teams that, could have done a little bit better last year, which have they've made some very good acquisitions. So anyway, I think that wraps it up for the NHL segment.
I think it doesn't. Yes, it does, Josh. What a great segment it was. I think this was the most exciting one I did today. A lot of cool things happened. Very cool things. And not only is that the end of our NHL segment, that is the end of our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you really tuned in to the end of this, you are a true legend. Please like and subscribe, or don't. I don't care. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.